let's go ahead and get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, there is a lot of news, and whenever there's a lot of news, I want to cover it both fast and thoroughly. So that, it's impossible to do both. But let's talk about Odell Beckham Jr.
Yes,
that's the breaking big-time news.
We might have to linger on this for a little bit because
that's fine.
I got some talking to do.
Well, let's do that then, because Odell Beckham Jr., we said yesterday on the show, likely to be suspended. The news broke later yesterday, suspended for 1 game. The news on the appeal, he's going to appeal. That should be handled today or tomorrow at the latest. We will know whether he's actually available for that game. My gut tells me he is out.
Yeah,
you cannot tolerate that.
I agree. You got to, if you're an Odell Beckham owner, you need to be prepared that he's going to be out. And generally, we're a very fantasy-focused show. But I was watching after the game last night.
Monday night game.
After the Monday night game where Ray Lewis, Steve Young, Trent Dilfer, these guys, they all always do a wrap-up. And I like those guys. I like the banter between the 4 of them generally. But they started talking about Odell Beckham last night. And it was Ray Lewis saying he regularly talks to Beckham, says, this is not who Odell Beckham is as a person. This is not who him as a guy, as a person, as his character. And then he launches into how he's very disappointed with the Giants, that his teammates did not come to his aid, that his coach did not come to his aid. And then Trent Dilfer. Yeah, I mean, it's on the coach. You got to pull that guy out. It's on his teammates. You got to tell him to settle down, pull him out of that fight. Even Steve Young. Everyone was passing the blame to everyone else except the guy who almost broke Josh Norman's face.
No responsibility.
None whatsoever. And I was just thoroughly disgusted with, you got to have some accountability. Odell Beckham messed up. Can he fix it? Absolutely.
Well, and we said this before the show. If he wanted to do what's best for his brand, name, and as a human being, genuinely,
right,
he should have come forward and not blamed other people. And just say this, and I understand you might still need to appeal, right? Because your team needs to win, and maybe you have some grounds for appeal, right? But part of that process can be taking responsibility for ridiculous actions on the field, as opposed to being patted on the back and say, look, there are all these outside circumstances that caused me to do this. I mean, this is not a one-time behavior. This is something we've seen multiple times. You showed me a video right before. I don't know if you retweeted that.
I did. Yes.
Where he blows a guy up for no reason whatsoever and then hides behind a referee to, avoid the repercussions of that. It doesn't mean he's the bad guy for his life. It means he should come forward as a human being and say, look, I'm responsible for this. I made a wrong decision. It's going to change on the field. If you come forward with an appeal with that, maybe it goes your way, maybe it doesn't. But you know what? Moving forward, people are going to respect the person you are and the player you are.
Yeah, it was some ridiculous protecting of a superstar from.
That's how it felt to
you? It very much felt like that to me.
So fantasy-wise, if you own him, you're in trouble this week. If you don't own him and you're playing against him, you're probably doing a tap dance
Merry Christmas
somewhere. So this is fantasy football, the polar emotions of that situation. Now, if you owned him, Mike, after saying all that, and he was not suspended, you'd sit him down for,
And no, I would not. I would play him.
All right.
I would
separate it. You'd separate it out.
I don't blame people if they want to do that. We had that whole situation last year with some players like
with Adrian Peterson.
With Peterson, and I don't blame people if you want to do that. That's how you play. I have no problem with that.
You mean to sit him down?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a slippery slope then, because we don't know. I mean, this is not a personal game. This is a statistical game.
I'll tell you what I've done in our league of record. I got so disgusted with my team, I'm benching all of them.
Well, I made sure you could do that. All right. Hey, Denard Robinson, foot injury. They say it's not serious. You need to monitor this week. I suspect TJ Yeldon will be back, but we need to see the reports on whether Robinson or Yeldon or somebody else is the running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Because even though Denard did not, have an incredible game, he still gave you a baseline last week, didn't get in the end zone.
He took 100% of the running back touches.
That's a very high percentage. That's up there.
And he gets to play the Saints next week.
If you watched the game last night, Drew Brees played on one foot. Had a pretty impressive comeback on one foot. Couldn't finish it, but mostly because, man, they couldn't get in at the end of the half. That was tough to watch. In a protective boot, will have an MRI. Drew Brees might not be available next week.
That would be a big loss for people. I mean, against Jacksonville Jaguars, that is a tasty matchup for a championship for a guy that people have been riding. Brees has been good since he started very slow.
It's incredible how this works, but you saw it last night. The reason Brees' value is there is because of what happened last night. Their defense couldn't stop them, and the games that the Saints are in, they feel like they're about 6 quarters long. I don't know how these games, they feel like they last forever because there's just so much passing and the clock stops. So Pete Carroll said that the Seahawks, despite Krista Michaels having a very good second half, I'm surprised we didn't have a special Krista Michaels episode
I tried to tone it down.
Put out there. They're going to continue with an RBBC, but Michaels the guy you'd want to start, right?
Yeah, Bryce Brown did have a solid game, but Michael was the guy who was getting the touches. He had the hot hand. Certainly that could switch, but if you're playing the probability, you go with Michael. And as far as a special episode, I mean, the Christmas miracle is that people are going to play Krista Michaels in their championship week. That speaks for itself. That's all the goodness that I need in my soul.
Just so I can recap. Real quick, Krista Michaels' season. Started on the Seahawks, cut by the Seahawks.
No. He was traded.
Okay, okay. You always remind me of that. It feels like being cut, but all right.
When you're traded for a 7th-round pick, that sure feels like being cut.
On the Seahawks, traded for a 7th to Dallas. Cut by Dallas.
Yes.
Signed by the practice squad of Washington.
Yes.
Not worthy of that spot. Cut by Washington, signed by Seattle, now playoff relevant.
Yep.
And how much of this does he owe to you? How much of that bonus, what he's getting paid, should be sent to your house?
It's not just me. It's the Krista Michaels truthers have united.
So you and one other guy.
We did it. We did it, America.
We did it, Steve. Whoever's out there.
It's me and Steve.
It's you and Steve. All right. Cowboys place Melvin Gordon on injured reserve. Cartilage damage to the knee, ending his season. Should be okay for next year. It was a really interesting thing to hear him come out about 2 weeks ago and say, I'll be better next year. Like, it wasn't I'll be better this year. It was I'll be better next year because he said he starts slow on every level, whether it was high school, collegiately, or whatever. So wait and see. He should be a high pick next year. I mean, not a high pick, but he'll be a starting running back selection with upside.
He will be a value. Melvin Gordon
there you go.
Is the list I was talking about of guys to not forget. Melvin Gordon is absolutely on there. He's going to be a guy you can draft probably in the 5th or 6th round who will be a starting running back.
And we'll talk as soon as the regular fantasy season's over, we'll be talking about those guys, the undervalued guys that we see projecting going forward free agency. But right now, Melvin Gordon's out. Danny Woodhead, upside play this week, right?
Danny Woodhead?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Him and Donald Brown will be talking about.
Okay. So what's next here? We've got Jason Garrett confirming Dez Bryant won't be shut down. Okay. So there you go. He did look – I mean, he's got more upside if you have a different quarterback in play. Yeah. So if Kellen Moore's out there, Dez Bryant's okay because he's going to target him because you know what smart quarterbacks do? They kind of target the giant guy that you can give him the ball even on a screen pass, he can take it to the house.
Matt Castle is very confusing as the Dallas quarterback, not focus firing at Dez Bryant where when he was in Kansas City, I mean, he was completely focus fired on Dwayne Bowe.
Yeah, that's a smart way to go.
And he had success. You throw it to your best player.
Adrian Peterson, ankle injury. According to Zimmer, he will be all right after the ankle scare. Any concern there? Limited workload concern?
I would say slightly. The bigger concern is he's Sunday Night Football. And if you're an Adrian Peterson owner, you best have a Sunday night option available.
McKinnon, Asiata?
Yeah.
Somebody else.
Somebody who can at least put some points up.
What you can do is you can sign one of maybe the Giants, maybe Shane Vereen too, as a super backup option just for an emergency case. It's better to be safe than sorry in that situation. Danny Amendola knee sprain, not going to play. Probably won't miss the real playoffs, but irrelevant for fantasy. Marcus Mariota, we talked about yesterday. He's done for the season. Quarterback news for the Colts. Andrew Luck not playing in Week 16. Pagano said that Matt Hasselbeck is beat up from the feet up.
Chuck Pagano is a soundbite machine.
He is.
So that is something you can never take away from him.
I agree. So that being said, Matt Hasselbeck, if he's out there, he's a shell,
Oh,
and
dude,
he's trying to throw to Hilton.
You cannot play Hasselbeck. I was watching a lot of that game on Sunday.
You said he was dead, and then like 5 minutes later, you go, he's back in.
Yeah, he went full Lazarus and returned to the game. He just every time he goes down, I mean, you feel bad.
So this week is not a good week for a receiver for Indianapolis.
No, no.
Okay, so Shady McCoy, torn MCL week to week.
How are you week to week?
I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know the knee. I don't know his knee.
I'm sure LaShawn McCoy is he's on the phone day and night with Antonio Gates learning how do you play without an MCL when it is such a big part of what you do.
Yeah, it's impressive. So John Fox has declined to update us on Alshon Jeffrey. This is actually a league record for the most times that he's declined to update us on Alshon Jeffrey for a season. He just broke the record, which is impressive. So if you own him in your annoying coach league, he is number one.
Thanks, John.
Yeah. John Harbaugh said there's no way he's going to banish Buck Allen after fumbling in Week 15. That was his second week in a row. He was banished in the game. He was banished from the score sheet if you're a fantasy owner. But this week, they play the Steelers. Do you have any hope for Buck Allen?
Minimal.
Yeah, me too.
Minimal.
Ron Rivera said he's going to play his starters in Week 16.
Which, thanks, Ron.
Well, yeah. I mean, people wondered, though, are New England and Carolina best served to rest them for a couple weeks? We've seen injuries this year that have been crazy.
But Panthers have not locked up the ones. If they win this week, then next week will be a very tough decision for Ron Rivera of go for undefeated or rest because you have the 1 seed locked up.
He may take the temperature of the locker room for that one. That might have a lot to do with whether the players want to go or not.
I would say he goes for it.
I think you probably should.
I think
they're on a roll, man.
To.
They're on a roll, and they're already going to have a bye, so you're going to have a week. You'd have 2 weeks off. It's a lot of time to get. Now, a guy like Jonathan Stewart who's banged up, you might not see him on the field.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I don't know if you're going to see him this week. ESPN, I noticed, they're projecting Jonathan Stewart and not Artis Payne and those other guys. I think it'll be Artis Payne, so he's a sneaky guy that you can grab. We'll talk about him here soon. And then the fantasy.
Oh, the big salad.
The big salad.
Big salad. Chandron's going for an MRI on his knee. It's
yeah.
I don't think it's looking too good for the salad. So Travaris Cadet is the primary backup in San Francisco.
Unbelievable. Hey, that's good to know.
Yeah, I mean
they got the Bills. The Bills didn't show up last week.
He caught I think 4 of 6 targets or so. So PPR maybe.